Salutations. Welcome once again to the Wednesday edition, the Hump Day edition to Black to Business that is hosted by yours truly, Dr. Elwood B. Coulon Smith, Chairman of the Board for the New Orleans Regional Black Chamber of Commerce. Happy Hump Day, and I hope you're enjoying something good for your lunch. And I hope you're ready to listen. I hope you're ready to talk because you can dial in, phone in, or call in at 504-582-9422. And today, my guest is none other than one of my former professors, a friend of mine, and also a frat brother. He is the author of Cultural Expressions from the Soul of New Orleans, and he is the former professor of sociology at the Southern University A&M College. I introduce to some and I present to others my brother, Dr. Clarence Thornton. Brother Thornton, who is Clarence Thornton, and tell us a little bit about yourself, including your educational and occupational experiences?
Well, first of all, good morning. I should say good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yes, sir.
And I certainly want to express my gratitude for the invitation that you've given to me, and hopefully things will work out. So thank you for the invitation.
Welcome.
Now, relative to who I am.
Yes, sir.
I am a native of New Orleans, born and raised here. In fact, not too many blocks from where we're sitting right now.
Okay.
I'm also a graduate of McDonald 35 Senior High School, class of 1966.
All right, 66.
Okay. I'm also a trained sociologist with a PhD in sociology from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and I'm also a licensed attorney. Currently, however, I'm retired from both professions.
Got it.
Which gives me time now to focus on some of the important things that I like to do in life. One of which is to complete this book, which is now finished and is now published.
All right.
I'm also working on a second book. So with that, we can get right into cultural expressions from the soul of New Orleans.
Let's do it. So tell us about your new book and why you decided to write on this topic.
This book is about cultural expressions. It's about the language that we use to communicate with each other within our community. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's shown in the greetings that we use, in the departures, or saying goodbye, expression how we express ourselves with love, with compassion, or very often with disdain or disgust. How we encourage each other. So these are some of the areas in which we have expressions that are unique or common or endemic to our community.
Got it.
And this is what the book is about.
All right. Can you give us some examples of these cultural expressions and when they are typically used?
Okay. First of all, it would be nice to go through all of these expressions, but that's not really workable now because of time constraints. So I'll pull out some that are important to me that are used more often than not. Now, we've classified these expressions.
Okay.
So we'll start with greetings. Okay. So rather than saying hello, we have a set of expressions that embody the same thought, but it's expressed differently.
Right.
We use the expression, for example, what's up?
What's up?
What you got? What you say? Where you at?
Right.
Yo, sup? That sort of thing.
Well,
okay? These are expressions of greeting.
Okay.
Now, as we depart from whatever interactive situation we're involved in, it's easy to say simply goodbye. Mm-hmm. But rather than saying goodbye, it's I'm out. Okay, or I'll holler. Or later.
Okay.
Yeah. So these are some of the expressions.
All the time.
Now, another classification of expression may be in terms of how we congratulate each other.
Okay.
You know, we want to encourage individuals to continue doing well in life. So if it's a female, the expression might be, you go, girl.
You go, girl.
Or I ain't mad at you.
Yeah.
Or scared of you. Or she really has it going on.
Wow.
So this is how we congratulate people. We also have expressions of caution where you are informing the listener that he or she is approaching the line over which they ought not cross.
Right, right.
And so you have to let them know you're getting too close to the line.
How you do that, Doc?
So we might tell them, don't even think about it. You better ask somebody, or you don't want to go there, or it's going to be like that. Or don't you roll your eyes at me, boy, or you had better get out of my face.
Okay.
All right? Another class of expression would reflect a genuine warning or admonishment because sometimes people are trying to move in life too fast and they're not slowing down to smell of roses. So we may admonish them, for example, to slow your roll, hold up, hold it, hold on, or hold tight. Be cool, chill, or take a chill pill.
Right, right.
So we want people to enjoy life. Okay, so this is an expression of just slowing down. The idea of rolling is one of the expressions with multiple meanings. And we have a lot of expressions, it's defined one way in one context, in other contexts, different definition. So to roll is both behavior, what you're doing, but it's also an expression of one's character or one's set of values.
Right.
Okay. In other words, I may ask you, Dr. Smith, I want you to go with me, and we're going to become involved in some unlawful activity. You would then look at me and say, look, I'm sorry, Dr. T. That's not how I roll.
Right.
That's not me.
It's not.
Feel me?
Feel you.
Are we straight then?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So here we have like a line of expressions used in the same conversation.
Right.
But we have one general expression, which is to roll, and we're acknowledging that there are multiple definitions depending upon the context. And of course, there's the expression of disbelief. Get out of here. I don't believe that. Or please. Or hello.
Yeah.
Now, these are expressions that just on paper may have one meaning, but how you pronounce that expression, it has more meaning.
Multiple. Right.
Expressions of oppositions or disagreement. So what? Or say what? Or what's up with that? Or get out of my face? Or what possessed you to do that? It may be an expression of surprise or recognition that there's something that you ought to know, but apparently you don't. Let's say we leave our home and the night is clear, stars are bright. The next morning, there's snow on the ground. And so you tell me, look, Dr. T, it must have snowed last night.
Right.
And my expression would be, duh. You think?
Yeah.
Okay. So here again, these are expressions that we use all the time. And they're funny sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
But by the same token, they only refer to our interactive activity.
Oh, yeah.
We also have expressions that are more endemic to New Orleans that refer to places and things.
Right.
For instance, and these are recognizable and used all the time in New Orleans. So rather than saying sidewalk, sometimes we say a banquet. Rather than saying a median between roads on a highway, for instance, we have neutral grounds.
Right, right.
And we have locations, like most large cities would have an uptown and a downtown.
Yeah.
Well, we want to extend that here in New Orleans. So we have uptown, downtown, but we also have back of town, and we have out front of town.
Right.
And we have up and out front of town.
Gotcha. So, Doc, we got a caller, Miss Candace. Miss Candace, you're on the air. Hello? Miss Candace, you're on the air. All right, Miss Candace must have hung up. So, Doc, Why should the members of the listening audience purchase this book?
Well, and I have a little personal bias here, but it is an expression of a particular aspect of our history.
Okay.
So, by virtue of that fact, we want to learn from our history. There are lessons that are in our history. So, this is an opportunity then to preserve what's important to us.
Hmm.
It's also an opportunity to provide a model that can be used by others to do the same or similar research that I took to do by compiling aspects of our culture, classifying, analyzing, and then disseminating that whatever findings that we have. In addition to that, it's also important that we recognize that certain aspects of our culture are being challenged today.
Oh,
There
very
are
much so.
efforts across the country intended to erase and or disappear aspects of our culture. And by making this available to individuals, putting it in their hand, with disseminating it, but also placing it in a personal repository. Or the repository may be museums and libraries. We want to make certain that our history is preserved.
Okay. So that's a segue into the next question that says, what do you hope that cultural expressions from the soul of New Orleans will bring to our community?
Again, I think it brings a sense of accomplishment.
Okay.
Okay, everyone can read this book and look at the methodology that was used to pull things together. They can then take that as a lesson that I can now do the same thing in another area of our culture.
Right.
It may be compiling information about black inventors, about musicians in the city of New Orleans, about those individuals who are involved in crews like yourself with the Zulus and different things about what they've done for the city of New Orleans. Just compile that information so that people can know more about the Zulu crew, for instance.
Gotcha. So, have you experienced any ups and downs in your professional life? And if so, how do you navigate them and overcome them and get through them?
Life is full of ups and downs. No one said that this was going to be easy. I guess I'm reminded here of a sermon that I heard from an evangelist by the name of Miles Monroe. He
Mm,
said that the richest place on earth is always the cemetery.
mm,
So the takeaway for me is that while we have gifts and dreams,
right.
we need to work on those gifts and dreams today while we're still
I
alive
would say I have
and not
a lot
them
of things
pass
in my body.
beyond this life into the cemetery and enrich that area.
Right.
The gifts that we have are those that are to be given to someone else.
Mm, yes, sir.
That's critically important.
So, what advice would you give someone looking to be a professor, or author such as yourself?
That's a more difficult question because everyone is an individual.
Hmm.
And so you need to find out what your gifts are and what your likes and dislikes.
Okay.
And you merge what you like with what you think you've been blessed to do, and you begin to work on it.
Okay.
Knowing that you're gonna fail sometimes, but sometimes failure, there's always something that's good that can be learned from having failed.
Yeah, and that's part of the process. So, can you tell the listening audience about the process of writing, publishing, and promoting your book?
Again, another very interesting question. I've had I've been blessed to have a relative who's involved in the publishing industry.
Okay.
And with extensive conversations with her, I've learned some of the ins and outs, some of the things you should do, with ideas, especially if these ideas may have been used by someone else. The use of photos is a classic example. Um, you need to learn and become educated before you step out there
Mm.
because you don't want to use something that's copyrighted. You don't need to use, you don't, and you should not use things that are already patented.
Right.
Okay, so you have to learn what these legal requirements are. You need to know your limitations as well.
Okay.
You know, it's important for you to establish which lane that you're traveling in and not veer off into someone else's lane. So you want to concentrate on what you can do and what you enjoy doing.
All right. So you've a retired professor. You've done that forever. You were you're also an attorney, and now you're an author, which is a businessman. So how does that transition take place, and how have you experienced that transition, and how do you like it?
In one sense, it is transitioning, but not having to leave something. In other words, those things that I have learned in sociology, I've applied in law.
Okay.
And the things that I've learned practicing law, I'm now in a position to translate those experiences to how I write.
Okay.
Okay. So it's an education. The education never ends.
Right.
It's
Right. Right.
something that's continuous.
And also that also shows that you can't stop one thing or walk away from one thing and not bring it over to the next thing you're doing.
Precisely.
And most people try to say, you know what, I'm going to go do this and I'm just going to put this down and leave it alone. But once you have grown and once you have become the person that you are, you got to put them all together and merge them and let it work for you.
Exactly. Hopefully, this is what I've done.
Okay. So, what legacy do you want Dr. Clarence Thornton to leave in the city of New Orleans and the surrounding areas, especially since you have the culture of expressions from the soul of New Orleans? You know, what legacy do you want to leave?
To place this book in the hands of your listening audience, for instance, I want them to walk away having reviewed these expressions and smiled about it and laughed about it, reminisce and perhaps relive some of these expressions today, knowing that you're going to have conversations with others,
Right.
and reliving those things. So to smile and just have fun.
All right. We have a caller on the air. You may know this caller. Niana, you're on the air. Hello? Niani. So, Doc, since the caller is coming in and she's going to be on the air real soon. Oh, I think we lost her. She will be calling back, I know. Tell us about who or what has motivated you to be the person that you are.
Well, that goes back to my mom and them.
Okay. Hey, and
If
you know what?
can
I
use that
highlighted.
particular
I
expression.
highlighted that right there to speak about. So yeah.
But it was my mom and them, which we translate to mean my mom and the family.
And the family. So Doc,
She admonished me to get as much education as I could possibly get, because that's one thing that no one can ever steal from you. And I've always remembered that.
So
and I took her at her word about the importance of education.
Would you saying that I'm gonna merge in the caller? Caller, you're on the air. Hello?
Niana, you there?
Yes.
All right. We listening. You on the air, Niani. We all listening to you right now.
Oh, okay. I wanted to ask, since the book is completed and it's out there being sold, what is your biggest takeaway? What is something that you feel like you've really accomplished? Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Did you
We
hear
can
what I
hear.
just asked?
Yes.
Yes, and I
Okay.
understand the
I
question.
okay. I was asking, since the book is already out there and it's
What is the biggest takeaway?
My takeaway is that I can have an idea and act upon that idea. I've done a lot of writing, mostly formal research reports and journal articles and that sort of thing. But this was the first crack at creating something from scratch.
Mm,
Could I do this? This is what I ask myself. Why not?
why not?
It's there. Take advantage of the skills that you have and apply it to every area that you're involved in. So I wanted to write. Again, I wanted this aspect of our history to be preserved. That was motivation number one. Number two is to thwart these efforts to disappear much of our culture. And by putting this in writing, disseminating, making certain that it's to be found in repositories, whether it's museums or libraries, but certainly in people's homes, that preservation is of the utmost importance.
Okay.
We have to preserve. And also having this book to be an exemplar, a model that others can use to preserve other aspects of our culture. So it becomes an invitation for others to do.
All right. So, Doc, um, former Grand Bachelor C. Tyrone Gilmore once said, "First in the heart is a dream, and then the mind architects a plan to make that dream a reality." So once you had this dream in your heart and your mind began to architect a plan to make this dream a reality, what was that process?
Spend a lot of time thinking about it. Spend a lot of time doing the research, trying to learn as much as you possibly can learn about the topic that you have the interest in.
Okay. So we have caller Ebony. You're on the air.
Hi, I wanted to know. Well, since you wrote this book, what do you think is next? What's going to be your next step?
Well, actually, I've already begun working on a second book.
Oh, okay.
So this book is going to be a little bit beyond entertaining and invoking laughter and that sort of thing. It's going to be a little bit more scholarly, a little bit more political, and a little bit more historical.
Okay.
I have an interest right now, for instance, in
Okay.
going back to W.B. Du Bois and one of his books. It's entitled Reconstruction.
Mm.
But it's also about the second Reconstruction. And to that, I want to give a shout out to Professor Nicole Hannah Jones, because it was from her that I got the idea of looking at and comparing the second Reconstruction, which began in the 1960s, with the first Reconstruction during the late 1800s.
Okay.
And some of the things that's happening in our society right now that reminds me so much. There's so many parallels between the first Reconstruction and the second. Hopefully, through the efforts of some of us who see some of the changes taking place in our society today, I think that we are in a much better position to understand the changes and the hindrances and efforts to return um, back to former day that should have been lost. Um, but we're in a better position today to respond to it, to make certain that it's not going to come to an end the way the first Reconstruction came to its end.
Right. Right. So, and speaking on that, and I would go to a community calendar. But one of the things I wrote down that I've been thinking about since all of this stuff has been going on, one of my former mentors, Dr. Morris Jeff FX, always used to speak about Sankofa. And that teaches that the past serves as a guide for planning the future, emphasizes that learning from history is essential for progress. It is often depicted as a bird moving forward with its head turned backward, with an egg in its mouth, and it's a stylized heart. So he often spoke about how everything began, and if you're not careful, what has been done in the past will be done again. So we talked about slavery, Reconstruction, as you say, Jim Crow. Then you had the the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which is just an act. You vote on it every 10 years. And right now, to this day, you have Senate Bill 121 by Jay Morris, a Republican from West Monroe, that's talking about the redistricting of the congressional areas and the congressional races. And then you also now have House Bill 1215, which talks about Confederate monuments and how they're trying to put them in a state park so they can be on display again. And then now you also have the election of the clerk of court of New Orleans, Calvin Duncan, who was elected by the people, but then the governor and the rest of the people that's in the House and the state of representatives said, you know what, we're going to do away with this. Now the man is no longer the clerk of court. So these are the things, speaking on the spirit of Sankofa, if you're not careful, the things that have happened in the past will do what, Brother Doc? Happen again.
Yes.
So we got to be careful. We got to vote. And we can't just vote. Although you vote blind, but you can't, although you vote by blind ballot, or you go into a voter's booth and no one knows who you're casting your vote for, you can't vote blind. You got to vote with everything that's on your mind that needs to be done to get it done. And the only way you can get these things done is to vote. Also, we'd like to send congratulations out to the seniors at Illinois McMahon Secondary School. Graduation is tomorrow. Congratulations, seniors. This is Zulu anniversary weekend. Friday's all-white party. Saturday's softball game. Sunday is church service in the anniversary parade. So next week on Black to Business, we will have Chef Sherm from NOLA Roller Catering. And also the Row 5 chapter of the Mega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated will have the Suits and Stilettos Street party on this Friday. So, Brother Dr. Thornton, do you have any closing words for our listening audience on this edition of Black to Business?
The title of the book is Cultural Expressions from the Soul of New Orleans. And I think that title pretty much captures the book itself.
Okay. So as we close out, how can they get a book? How can they buy a book? What avenues can they purchase this book?
They are now available on Amazon, from Amazon. You can also find the book in Barnes & Noble. Or you can call me, contact me, and I believe I can get them to you by mail as well. My email address is cthorn2@bellsouth.net.
All right, Doc. Thank you for all that you do, all that you've done. And I thank you for all that you have done for me, sir. You know, I do believe when I was at Southern University in your class, I believe it was much different than it is now. But I thank you for your encouragement. I thank you for your motivation and your inspiration to have me here sitting across the table from you today doing what we do.
Thank you so much.
You did?
for having me.
All right, Doc.
Thank you.
Thank you.